This is Entrepreneurship 101. Entrepreneurship 101 is created to empower entrepreneurs all over the world. And today I have my special guest. He is a CEO, a serial entrepreneur that is currently working in the age tech longevity space, none other than Mr. Matt Smith. Welcome, Mr. Matt, on Entrepreneurship 101. And can you please introduce more about yourself, Matt?
Sure. Thanks for having me. Matt Smith, I'm CEO, one of the co-founders of a company called Speak2. My background is in software, and I've been an entrepreneur of many companies. This hopefully is my favorite and most successful company. And I'm mostly a background in software and product development, and the current company Speak2 deals with people who are in the aging community. So what we typically call the longevity economy or age tech. Our solution helps people who are aging stay connected to family, friends, content. They can purchase services, they can get products. Basically, we take an ecosystem that is underserved, that doesn't have a lot of ability to participate in the consumer environment that the rest of us live in, and we make it possible for those users.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Mr. Matt. Thank you. And today, let's talk about being strategic thinker and the product leader itself. Bottleneck Rocket defines leadership by your four pillars: quality, value, efficiency, and connection. If you had to distill your leadership philosophy into four words, what would they be, and would you team agree that you actually live by them?
Hmm. I can only choose four words.
Hmm.
That's tough. Um, I would say that from a leadership perspective, I think empathy would be the primary word that I would use from a leadership perspective. I think leaders have to be empathetic. We have to be able to put ourselves in the shoes of everyone around us, whether it's the customer, vendors that we work with, suppliers, employees, partners. Um, the first thing, any step that we take when engaging with anybody in our ecosystem, we need to start with empathy. I think along with that is kindness. I think something we've really focused on at Speak To is to lead with kindness always, um, and that just means coming to the table with the intention of doing something good for someone else. And I think as a leader, if that is your intention, then good things happen. People will feel comfortable and safe with you, and you're more likely to have success together because people know that you're coming to them with kindness. I think humility is another big word that we use at Speak To, and that I've always followed that concept. People like Simon Sinek and a lot of TED Talk people talk about humility, and I've followed that same philosophy. Um, if you think you know something before you're engaging in your conversation, where you think you know more than the person you're talking to or the group you're talking to, you're not likely to learn anything. You're not likely to be heard, because people don't want to be talked to; they want to be talked with. So I think coming to the table with humility is really important. And then I think something maybe a little bit more self-centered or a little more uh, within our control is just confidence. I think having confidence in your vision and who you are and what you're doing, and in your product and in your mission. Uh, you have to maintain that confidence. You can get feedback. Humility will give you feedback. Empathy will give you feedback, but you have to be confident enough to receive that feedback and to be humble. And all of that comes from an underlying confidence that I think leaders really need to have.
Very well said, Mr. Matt. Beautifully articulated. You emphasizes turning ideas into action, building trust along the way. Where's the biggest gap in your organizations right now between a great idea and consistent execution? And is the trust the missing ingredient?
Yeah, yeah. I think the four things I just spoke about are probably the guiding principle to close that gap. But I think we're in an interesting time where we have a very diverse set of expectations and a diverse set of capabilities. So we have different demographics: Gen Z, Gen Y now, millennials, who grew up with technology, and they have a certain expectation on how the world will interact with them, and it's typically technology based. It's an app. It's a something streaming. It's gaming. The way that those generations, millennials and beyond, engage with the consumer world around them is through technical resources, whereas Gen X is sort of in the middle, right? I'm Gen X. We grew up with technology emerging, but it wasn't since we were children. And then you have the boomers and the greatest generation who did not grow up with technology. They were there for some things emerging, but it's not their go to way of engaging with people. So I think the gap that we have is expectations and capabilities around how we engage with the world around us. And I think what it's done is it's created a divide between our elders, people who are aging, the boomers, and anyone else in that category, um, and the knowledge and the experience that that generation has being accessible to younger generations. And I think that gap needs to be closed because we're missing out on a lot of life lessons and a lot of wisdom.
Indeed. So, Mr. Matt, your promotion to president come after 8 years of increasing responsibility at Battle Rocket. In an era of rapid job hopping, what is the strategic advantage of a deep institutional knowledge, and what do you lose when leadership constantly cycles through new phases?
Hmm. That's a great question. I think my experience is in the technology world, software consulting, and a lot of people in that field, in that state of mind, tend to work between 2 and 4 years at one place, and it's not unusual to change every few years, your job or even your career, or your focus within your career. Um, I do think that we lose some momentum when we make changes too quickly, but I think the desire to make those changes is usually comes from a place of uh, accelerated learning and accelerated engagement. So I don't think it's a big disadvantage that we have a lot of people moving around and changing careers and changing things, especially with the emergence of AI. I think it's going to force a lot of people to rethink their career and rethink their skill sets. Um, but I do think that we can lose some of that mentorship, some of that leadership if people don't build some credibility in one area or in one focus over a period of time. I do think it's been a negative effect in general over the last, say, 15, 20 years, where people are uncertain, so uncertain about their careers. People don't tend to stay 20 years in a job anymore. Um, but I think that's counterbalanced with a lot of innovation, a lot of reinvention, a lot of just education and a drive to continuously evolve as people. And I think those two things balance each other out.
Mis- Mr. Matt, you're responsible for expanding AI efforts while strengthening global delivery capabilities. How do you balance investing in the next transformative technology with delivering excellence in today's commitments?
It's a great topic. Um, I think it's a little bit of an art and a little bit of a science. I think entrepreneurs should really lean into new technologies, but be very cautious about um, ensuring that they can balance between what is beta, what is exploratory, versus what is actually helping people and delivering value today. I think 80% of your effort should be on what works today, what value can you deliver to someone that you know is going to work, that is not experimental, and that people will pay for it to fund your business. Um, and maybe there's 20%, maybe a little less than that, of exploring new things. I think if you get too deep into constantly exploring, you tend to not deliver as much value on the day to day. A lot of companies that raise money, they get VC money, and the entire company is essentially speculative. So they raise 2 million or 5 million or $50 million to build an AI tool, and really the whole goal is to come up with something brand new and something pretty much speculative, which is one model, right? Which is, that's fine. You're 100% speculative. Um, from my perspective, I like to be more of a bootstrap type entrepreneur where you're delivering value while you are innovating. And that's when I take that 80-20 approach, sort of the opposite of the typical 80-20 rule. But I believe 80% of your effort should be on delivering real value with real tools that are not speculative. But you still want to take about 20% of your time and investment and money into what's coming.
Very well said, Mr. Matt. Aside from Speak to, did you co-founded Thinkific?
I'm sorry?
Are you founder also of the Thinkific? Thinkific or not?
I'm not sure what that, I'm not understanding the word.
Okay, so as a founder of Speak to, as a CEO as well, when you're building for creators, people who build their own livelihoods on your platform, how does that change your relationship with the product decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of responsibility and recognizing that the ecosystem is going to be using your tools to engage with other people, right? So with Speak To, we actually have three, maybe even four people or market segments that we're approaching. We have buyers who are typically real estate owners. We have people who operate senior living communities. We have the residents themselves, people who are aging, and we also have their families. So all those people are actually benefiting from our platform and using our platform to further their own certain interests. Um, so I think it's really just a matter of understanding the responsibility to the people that you're selling to, that are using your system or that are benefiting from your system, and just ensuring that you know you're not overly focused only on the person paying for it, who might not actually be using it, or that downstream person who's maybe benefiting in some way but isn't top of mind. I think, just like anything else, we have to be responsible to all of the people that we touch and keep them in mind at all times.
Mr. Matt, scaling startups to millions in ARR requires knowing when to pivot and when to double down. Looking at your current product or business, what is signal would tell you in this time fundamentally change direction, and are you actually watching for it?
Yeah. um that's a great question. I don't know that there's any formula that tells people when to pivot or
Hmm.
how to pivot. I think that the market will tell you by by sales, whether you're successful or not. And it's really just a matter of looking at your reality. If you have a great product that you think can really help people and you're unable to sell it, and in some cases with entrepreneurs, they can't even give it away, then that's probably telling you that you should analyze that a little bit and think, okay, I think this is a great product, but maybe I need to pivot because nobody wants it or nobody's willing to pay for it. Um, so I think the market kind of tells you. I do think as an entrepreneur, you always have to be considering pivots. One of the benefits I have is I have a co-founder that we can bounce these ideas off of, and I'll talk to her about, what if we did this, what if we did that, and that perspective will weigh that option, and then she has her own ideas about how we might pivot, and then we look at our market and we just say, do we need to do these things? But the market usually tells you. I don't know a lot of people who have pivoted, who have had a lot of success, or they're growing and they have a lot of sales and a lot of happy customers, and then they decide to pivot. Usually, the market is telling you to pivot because you're not having the success that you expect.
Very well said. Very well said indeed. Mr. Matt, you help organizations explore new ideas and test bold thinking while making confident, data informed decisions. How do you protect space for bold thinking when the data for something truly new does not exist yet?
Well, you just described Speak to and what we've gone through with our business. Um, so when we started, just to give a little history, we were coming to the table as a marketplace, as telling people who were living in senior housing that they should be treating their residents, their customers, as consumers and not as patients. And there was a little bit of pushback, and there still is some friction there because the concept really is more of a real estate industry. You're renting an apartment with some care and some services. The way that we try to get people there is to really take a little consulting approach, which is to ask a lot of questions and to reveal to the customer that hey, maybe there's a different way of looking at this that would help my business or help my industry. And what I've found in the past is that has to be something that the customer discovers on their own. Even though maybe we're nudging them and we're asking questions that are leading them to that decision, you can't tell customers that you need to mature your model, or you need to look at things differently, or you need to change how you're working. Just especially in the senior living industry, it doesn't go over well. I don't think it goes over well in any industry. But if you can ask questions that reveal to a person, you know, are you maximizing your revenue? Why are you not driving revenue in this category and only in the other category? Or could you increase revenue in this category? Could you cut costs in another category? Asking the questions tends to have customers tell you what they want as a solution. And if your questions are good and your solution matches, then you've helped them mature as an industry. Uh, so I guess what I'm saying is ask, don't tell, and listen. And customers will tell you what they want, and they'll tell you if your product is actually going to meet that need.
Again, very well said, Mr. Matt. When you're looking at a business as a potential investment rather than operator, what do you see that the founders emerge daily have stopped noticing?
Hmm. Could you repeat that a little bit? I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Yes, definitely. So when you're looking at a business as a potential investment rather than an operator, what do you see that the founders emerge daily have stopped noticing?
So I think, from an investor perspective, I think what you're looking for from founders and wanting them to do is to stay focused on a mission, and to have a very delicate balance between day-to-day execution to get them there, but having the pulse on the mission in a broader market. So people are entrepreneurs typically, because like they're mentally ill in some way, because entrepreneurs are different than people who can go get a job at a bigger company. And I think that it's very easy for an entrepreneur to either get overly focused on minutia that is not going to bring things forward, um, and get stuck on something that is not big picture. Um, and then to the other extreme, some entrepreneurs only think about raising money, or only think about how great the story sounds, and they want to tell their story over and over, but they're not doing anything to actually deliver that story. So I think a balance of those two extremes is what I think investors and myself, that's what we look at to say, is there a chance of success here? It doesn't guarantee success, but I would say that the entrepreneurs that are only focused on the big picture and the story are not going to be successful. The entrepreneurs that are only focused on the minutia are probably not going to be successful. It's a combination of both. I think it's great to have a co-founder. I think too often entrepreneurs have an idea and they personalize it and they want it to be just theirs. And I think having a co-founder who complements your skill set is really important. I can say for myself, I have a co-founder that perfectly complements my skill set. We're pretty much opposites in every way, but we have the same mission. So that's my advice: is if you're investing in entrepreneurs and founders, make sure they either have that balance within themselves, which is really rare, or that they have a team around them or a co-founder or a set of co-founders that can help them balance the big strategy and the day-to-day.
Mr. Matt, to wrap up our discussion for today, what is the practice, the discipline, the habit that allows a strategic thinker to see what's invisible to everyone else?
Hmm. If I knew the answer to that, I would write a book or I would sell it, because I'm not sure that there's one answer to that question. I think very often people get lucky and they think of an idea and it's the right time and the right place and everything comes together. Um, but I don't think that there's any one answer to that question. I think entrepreneurs and founders being successful is as unique as the companies that they run.
Okay, Mr. Matt, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support, speak to, or anything that you want to promote on Entrepreneurship 101?
Yeah, please visit speak2family.com. Speak with the number two, speak2family.com. You can find me there, see all about our company. Find me on LinkedIn or social media. Always happy to connect with anybody and talk more about entrepreneurship. It's my favorite topic.
Definitely, please do come over and over, Mr. Matt, and let's talk about something good here on Entrepreneurship 101. So, Mr. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.